If you got a little sound ready to go.
Yep.
Yeah, party people. Here we go.
Yo.
Okay, get out of here. Dr. Ew, what's up?
You.
How you doing?
Good, good. What's going on?
Thank you so much for being here.
Of course, of course.
So we're gonna get started in just a second here. I think the only thing you need to know is keep your camera off when we get started, and I will read your bio and introduce you. And when you hear your intro song, turn your camera on, and we'll do it all dramatic.
Hey, okay.
All right. Do you have any questions before we get started?
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to know, am I leading some type of follow along, like a warm up, or besides the speaking factor of everything?
That's a good question. Yeah. So I'll be asking questions of all of our panelists. Okay. And if you would like to lead an activity, you are absolutely welcome to. There's going to be a lot of people on Facebook Live who are seeing our stream, but who can't participate.
Okay, okay.
So just keep in mind that it can't necessarily be that interactive, but yeah, we'd love to have that if you want to do that.
Okay, okay.
Sorry, I had to check my angles. I was going to go outside, but instead I'm going to make him just be quiet. It's kind of windy.
All right, y'all, let's get started. I'm gonna play some music.
That's right. For anybody who's already in the live stream, listen, this is what it is. Welcome to the rehearsal. Welcome to an open rehearsal, but we're finna get it popping and percolating. Let's go, Rem Cycle, with the tunes.
Let me say yeah!
Smoke jumper, packing my oral cannon, busting from Okinawa, Japan to Laurel Canyon. Swallow flows, we turning like plush tires. Mellow intros, lyrics be burning like brush fires. Spreading vocal leprosy, using discrepancy. Lyric weaponry lessens your chances of testing me. Stopping please, MCs, I block atrocities. True philosophies from the lips of black Socrates. A pocket penciler in your peninsula. Killing Dracula, MCs who rip from my vernacular. Knocking back in the ill scene, we occupy. No lullaby, got you high when I rock the fly verse. For my people, let me breathe slow. Give a heave and stimulate your cerebral system. Cut chemists from the beta with two of the group the beta. We murder you duplicators cause I'm an aristocrat and no diplomat. And I'm blessed with the gift of rap, it's like that. The aristocrat and no diplomat. And I'm blessed with the gift of rap, it's like that. Antagonistic, drastic, coming from a place where these cops get their ass kicked. The last trick unified was the cornerstone. A lyric crystal to the dome is how we wanna clone, born alone. The strength of God makes my mission higher. They found the liar dead, strung up with fishing wire. The mystifier packing vocal artillery, making lovely word connections like Chuck Willery. The coolery, I make your block turn to one rhyme. Electrifying like some nocturnal sunshine. The planetary pioneer and his mixer. Charlie Tuna spitting scriptures, painting pictures. Even sisters adapt, cause we take it back like chiropractors, fucking actors on wax, make it worse for
Well. Ooh, some dope tunes from Remy, DJ Rem Cycle, to get us started on this terrific Teacher Tuesday. What it do when we rounding up 2020. Good evening. Well, it's evening for me right now. Good day, I should say. Good day, all, wherever you are joining us in the Zoom room or on our live stream networks. I am Aisha Upchurch, the founder and director of HipHopEX, and I'm super excited for the evening we have planned for y'all. I just want to say the quick hello and welcome and all the logistical ooh la la, so I can get out the way. We can have an amazing time with our guest for today. So HipHopEX is an intergenerational lab project that is dedicated to exploring and experiencing the power of hip hop and education, its contributions to culture writ large. We are funded and based out of the Harvard Graduate School of Education, where I am on faculty, and have been excited to pilot amazing initiatives that put the shine on hip hop ed as it should rightfully be. In our third year, we are taken to these virtual streets as everyone else is to spotlight amazing individuals who are doing dope things, who can share their tips and insights, provoke questions. We try to bring the ethos of the cipher, the ethos of the cookout to this space. So though we are funneled through Harvard, please do not posture or pretend, be your real selves. That's for our panelists and any of our guests. Feel free along the way to drop, if you're joining us on Zoom, drop comments using the Q&A function or in the chat box. If you're in live stream, we are watching those comments too, so that we can bring your voice into the cipher. All right, y'all, it's 2020. 2020 is what it is, and it has been what it has been. Yes. So what we figure is, what better time than to, let me get my focus right. I'm focused, man. What better time than December of this truly unprecedented year than to celebrate how hip hop always continues to be responsive, to be resilient, to be just so much of a source for folks to get through, and also to ask different folks how they've redefined, reimagined, or even affirmed their practice. So Teacher Tuesday is what we love to give love to on this second day of the calendar, if your week starts with a Monday. So we're asking different educators to share with us their tips on how they've been navigating this Zoom world. And so we're gonna have amazing guests, but to introduce those guests, I wanna make sure that I give some love and some spotlight to the rest of our team. So our programming assistant for this academic year is Michaela Perry, who is helping watch the chat and keeps us lit on social media. And bringing us the tunes every Zoom is Remy Fernandez O'Brien, AKA DJ Rem Cycle, AKA he be locking, they be locking, yo. Remy is many things, but also an amazing dancer and locker with the Beantown Lockers, is a current graduate student at the Harvard Graduate School of Education and our current graduate lab fellow. And Remy will be moderating today's dope panel. So put your blue hands, your virtual hands, your real hands together for Remy.
Hey, thanks, Aisha. Yeah, oh my God, we have some incredible human beings here today. A panel of 3 teachers who we're just so excited to be hearing their wisdom about what it means to teach with a hip hop perspective in the year 2020. So I'm gonna start us off with Andrew Carter, also known as Dr. Ew, is a b-boy artist, entertainer, choreographer, teacher extraordinaire, training in b-boying, popping, waving, and gliding, along with his knowledge of hip-hop. Carter was drawn to his unique and abstract style. This is a list, y'all ready? His skills led him to perform with music artists including Kendrick Lamar, Tiana Taylor, Travis Scott, Ariana Grande, to appear in print ads such as Emirates Airline National Campaign, to dance in music videos for Janet Jackson featuring Daddy Yankee, Jennifer Lopez, Jason Derulo, winning freestyle dance competitions like EXPG's and Hot 97's Battle for $10,000. And he stars in theater, such as Encore, City Center Cotton Club Parade, and the Radio City Spring Spectacular. He was the Easter Bunny. Dr. Ew is currently teaching in New York City at Broadway Dance Center and EXPG, where he shares his talent and expresses his motto, I create to inspire. Give it up for Dr. Ew.
Wake up, stop selling crack to the black. Hope you bought a spare for your flat. Can't accept me talking real facts. Down the hill
Doctor,
like
are you
Jill
with
and
us?
Jack. I speak what your weak mind lacks. You heard that? I'm creative to the fullest. What you talking about, Willis? Cause you talking
Can I
never
turn the
kill
video
it.
on?
I hear but don't feel it. Thou ain't realist. You're just sweet meat in the village. Yeah, I'm a Don Diva, Don Neva. Y'all not seen her. He to squeeze into a wife beater. Yep, I'm a top leader. I got the Martin Luther King fever.
All right, Dr. Ew, thank you so much for being here.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hey, for some reason the video is not coming on.
Huh. Do we need to make you a co-host? That's what we got to do.
Yeah, can't say
I got it.
Thanks, Aisha. Okay, up next, my professor, the visionary instigator of street dance activism and global dance meditation for Black liberation. Dr. Shamell Bell is a mother, community organizer, dancer, and choreographer, and documentary filmmaker. Dr. Bell received her PhD in Culture and Performance at UCLA's World Arts and Cultures Dance Department. She received her MA in Ethnic Studies from UC San Diego and BA with honors in American Studies and Ethnicity, specializing in African American Studies at the University of Southern California. Dr. Bell is currently a lecturer of somatic practices and global performance at Harvard University and lecturer of African and African American Studies at Dartmouth College. Her work on what she calls street dance activism situates street dance as a grassroots political action from her perspectives as a scholar, dancer, and choreographer. Shamell's research examines street dance movements in South Central Los Angeles through an autoethnographic and performance studies lens. Her street dance experience includes featured roles in music videos, award shows, and tours. An original member of the #Black Lives Matter movement, beginning as a core organizer with Justice for Trayvon Martin Los Angeles / Black Lives Matter Los Angeles, to what she now describes as an arts and culture liaison between several social justice organizations. She also consults for social justice impact in the TV, film, theater, and music industry. That is a bio, y'all. Give it up for Dr. Shamell Bell.
All my life, been grinding all my life. Sacrifice, hustle paid the price. Want a slice, got to roll the dice. That's why all my life, I've been grinding all my life. Yeah, all my life, been grinding all my life.
How you doing, Dr. Bell?
I'm doing fantastic in the Slauson Hills, where Nipsey the Great is from. I would show you outside, but the window a little dirty. I'm gonna still show y'all outside. Y'all have to see these Slauson Hills. Can you see the Slauson Hills even though my window dirty? Can you see that?
We can see.
Okay.
That's beautiful.
Shout out to Nipsey.
And Dr. Ill, we can see you now. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you. Pleasure.
And finally, last but not least, we have Ryan Parker, is a Connecticut-based educator, youth empowerment activist, the poet laureate of Manchester, Connecticut. He's an author and hip-hop artist whose work focuses on centering, amplifying, and embracing marginalized voices. In addition, Parker loves his mama, his daughter Luna, his wife, and organic chocolate chip cookies. Give it up for Ryan Parker.
Yo, I'm feeling so happy. I'm feeling so happy. Love how you feel.
Man, yo, I'm just feeling so happy.
Me too, I'm feeling so happy. I'm just feeling so happy. Sometimes I'm sad, sometimes I'm mad, but now I'm feeling so happy. Yo, haters can hate.
Hey,
I choose to love. You can throw fists. I throw kisses and hugs. I be the light. I like to have fun. I stay shining bright. You can call me the sun. I love what I do and I love what I think when I say who I am, who I was. I love that I'm true to myself and I know that I love who it is I'll become.
I just had to let that play for a little bit because that's a vibe. Thanks for being here, Ryan.
Peace, and love. It's an honor to be sharing space with everybody. Thank you so much.
And if y'all like that song, that's Ryan Parker and Justice Lopez, Happy Vism. You can get that on YouTube.
Yo, Remy, can we run back Dr. Yu's intro since we got the video? Give me a little bounce,
Yeah, we can bring that back. Here we are.
want a slice. Got to roll the dice, that's why all my life I've been grinding all my life, yeah. All my life, been grinding all my life. Sacrifice, hustle, pay the price. Want a slice, got to roll the dice, that's why all my life I've been grinding all my life, look, I got everything on my.
Better wake up, stop selling crack to the blacks. Hope you bought a spare for your flat. Can't accept me talking real facts. Down the hill like Jill and Jack, I speak what your weak mind lacks. You heard that? I'm creative to the fullest. What you talking about, Willis? Cause you talking, never kill it. I hear but don't feel it. Thou ain't realist, you're just sweet meat in the village. Yeah, I'm a Don Diva, Don Neva. Y'all not seen her, he just squeeze into a wife beater. Yep, I'm a top leader. I got the mark.
Hey. Okay, that was well worth going back for. Oh man, all right. To this incredible panel of folks, thank you for being here. The first question I have for you is, I know that all of you teach in some capacity. And I would love to have our folks get to know you better by just learning a little bit about who are you as a teacher, whether you're online or in person. What are the most important things to you as a teacher? And we'll hop in double Dutch style, as Aisha likes to say, whenever it makes sense to you to hop in the circle. You can go ahead.
I guess I'll start it off. Let's see, I've been teaching hip hop dance, hip hop choreography for a good 12 years now. A lot of the major studios, a lot of the mom and pop studios as well, doing workshops, doing master classes, and being that I also know freestyle dance and b-boying, I would also teach that as well. So I versify between teaching like different choreography classes, ranging from beginners, little kids, to adults, to professionals, and the same thing with breaking as well. Oh, my bad. I can also say that the switch from being in person, because I'm a very hands-on teacher, from being in person to getting now everything being virtual. There's one thing of like learning like a tutorial, but to actually be live with the students and having to express yourself and dealing with like Wi-Fi and dealing with a whole bunch of challenges. My major thing that I express to them is that if you're here, just be here, not just physically, but mentally, just stay here, because that is a huge different frustration in itself. And I always explain not to be discouraged by the misconnection, because we'll always be connected. If you guys get what I'm saying. Who's going next?
I'll spin the water bottle.
I'm coming in. I'm coming in. Because I know Dr. Bell would have taken it if she was like, I'm taking it. So yeah, the question had revolved around just like who we are as educators. Is that right, Remy? Yeah. So yeah, I came in as a secondary ed teacher, English teacher. Started off in the middle school, straight up, same district. This is my 20th year of teaching, but my position has changed throughout. And so as I was your traditional, English teacher, I really
Brian, we lost you there. Speaking of not getting frustrated with the misconnection.
Am I back now?
Yes, we heard you right up until I really.
you were with me, just like Dr. U was talking about. You stayed with me even though you're not here with me.
We lost you again. Ryan?
No, you're
Ryan, you're off again.
Your internet is out again, Ryan.
It's just really invested in reimagining what education looks, sounds, and feels like. And so that's that's where I'm at right now, educator. I know that that I think of this world of education as a form of activism. And so that's me.
All right,
Okay,
thank you, Ryan. We lost a little bit at the end there. But we got the piece about rethinking education. So thank you.
All right, so that leaves me. I am an educator and practitioner of engaged pedagogy. So shout out to Bell Hooks. I wear South Central on my back, which is why I had to kind of show y'all, at least for a second. Usually I'll be out there. And I am an instigator of vision and purpose. So I call myself definitely an educator, but not like a teacher or, you know, I more, Remy will know, like I facilitate more and ask the questions that, you know, get you to understand what your vision is. And so what I typically say is if you're doing anything for me in this class, then you haven't found your project, your vision, your assignment. And so I try to offer as an educator a healing container and a healthy environment with a focus on wellness, as well as a connection to those on the ground, and not just be a bridge, but offer them, not for us to just study, but for those on the ground or outside of the classroom that wouldn't necessarily have the opportunity to be involved in what we call scholarship, right? And so it not having to be an old dead white man, for it to be theory, finding the theory on the streets and bringing it into the classroom, and from the classroom to the streets. So that's how I educate, and through the body, embodiment. That sound right, Remy?
That does sound right. Absolutely. I just took Dr. Bell's street dance activism class, and it was all about how can we bring people in? How can we engage with the community? How can this scholarship be a communal project? And I asked that question about like, who are you at large as an educator? Because I want to now narrow into as you had to shift from that in-person teaching to the online teaching, what did you feel like was essential to hold on to about that, or what did you have to be extra intentional about as we changed formats?
Ooh, I'll go. I had to hold on to vulnerability. It was difficult to I'm a very wear my heart on my sleeves. You know, I have the word truth tattooed on my back, and I have to tell people at some point, I got truth on my back. I can't tell a lie. Like that's just what I am. And so when you have screens, and sometimes it's easy to be disengaged or disingenuous even, or not authentic, because you know how you've heard of like, you call them internet thugs, or, you know, you want to say a lot while you're on the interwebs, but you won't say it to my face, that kind of energy. I wanted to break that. And so I wanted people to show up for themselves. And it's difficult when you can hide behind a computer screen. So I don't know if you remember, Remy, but the first thing I said was like, if y'all can't be vulnerable, I don't think you have the right class, you know? So that's what's difficult when you're trying to educate, and an engaged pedagogy wants you to think about us as whole individuals. We can't get whole if you can't. How you gonna win when you ain't right within? Like if you don't even know, like, and you haven't explored your self-awareness or things, in order for us to kind of remember, we did the self-sabotaging behaviors, like get deep into the things that people don't really talk about in classrooms. And that's what I didn't want to lose on Zoom. And so I had to try to figure out a way to foster where we feel safe enough because we're still in an institution. So I never offer a safe space in any institution. I said I can offer a healing container that I can hold space for, but vulnerability was key.
Is my audio coming in okay?
We're hearing you, but it's really
Can you hear me
choppy.
now? Am I still
Do you want to turn off your video?
really choppy? I'm gonna see if I can move my. Does that make it better?
That's way better.
Does that make it okay? No.
Yeah.
It's way better. You hear me? Okay, so you can't see me, but I'll give voice to this. So I think that what I wanted to hold on to is the fact that we've done this before, that we've already been here. So before I speak any further to that, I have to mention the fact that when we're talking about the terminology of social distance learning, it's important for us to remember that especially our most racially marginalized groups of students, our Black and brown students, social distance learning has always occurred for many of them. And so I made sure that I held on to that, because holding on to that really helps me to see that the work in navigating that has to happen, whether it's in front of a screen or we're in person. For many of those students, this idea of learning from a distance, it's been embedded in the divisions and lack of cultural relevancy that they've experienced in classrooms and so-called educational institutions that have always refused to accept them as their full selves. And so we can't deny the social distance and the expulsion rates of Black and brown bodies, right? We can't deny the social distance in school suspension rates attached to Black and brown bodies. We can't deny social distance and aggressive punitive punishments aimed at Black and brown bodies. We can't deny the social distance attached to the lack of representation as it correlates with Black and brown lived experiences in curriculum. And so when we talk about this age of quarantine, moving schools in the direction of making sure that, students have appropriate technology and the resources, food and communication and teacher-parent contact and highly engaging assignments, even if they're decorated in flashy ways to keep them engaged. What I'm noticing is that many are just beginning to realize that what we're now doing is what should have been the norm before. So I really hold on to what really keeps me centered, I think, is just knowing that the work has to happen still, whether we're behind these screens doing it, just like it had to happen before. And so the hope for me is like the new norm, and not in terms of like, it's not like being in the space, being outside of the physical space is not something that I want to stay in that zone. There's something about the energy of being in the room and sharing that energy, fostering it with the people. But the work at its core is still the same. So that's what I could add with no video. I apologize.
I don't think you need video. That was on point. Thank you, Ryan.
Incredible. For me, in a personal sense, when it comes to dance and dance education, I dance all the time when I'm outside of the house. And when I'm home, I'm ready to just chill. And when it came to a point where I have no other choice but to dance where I live, setting up and making sure the lighting's correct, making sure everything is clear, making sure you can see my full body, everything had to be some sort of challenge, but we always have to prevail. Now, when it comes to students, I teach for Brooklyn Prep in Williamsburg in Brooklyn, and it's usually an after-school program, so they're not graded on being a part of the dance team. But it came from like 100% attendance to falling upon only 6 people being a part of it because they could not handle being online. And it was a big wake-up call to see how them being in person, a team of 24 drops to 6 the following year due to them being on the computer, because they can't handle being on the computer because they're on the computer all day at school, and then they got to be on the computer to dance. it was too much for them. And it definitely hit home because it's like, man, I wish that they were able to write it out, but they're still kids, they're still learning, and this is a huge shift for everyone. But I will say this, the 6 that have stayed and prevailed and is still with the program is showing a major difference of how they were from the very beginning of the program. So I know that I'm helping and I'm still giving back and I'm still a part of lives that need that guidance, need that release, because dance is definitely a release. And I know as an adult, we are feeling this pandemic, but these kids are feeling it. They are feeling it. And I'm glad that they have some sort of outlet other than writing assignments or anything like that. They have some sort of physical outlet, some type of musical outlet that lets them feel free for at least 15 minutes.
Yes.
And yeah, that's where I come from.
And that makes me wonder, with the 6 students that you had left, what did you feel like you had to do differently? What did you change?
Oh, okay. Good point. So what changed is, besides just teaching them routines and trying to put something together, we gave them assignments. And they're growing up in a totally different era when it comes to dance. Like, there's TikTok, everything is quick now. Everybody's learning a different challenge. And what I explained to them, the challenge for us back in the day is when a music video was on TV, you would try your best to learn it that time that it was on TV. And if you didn't get it, hopefully you VHS'd it and then you're rewinding it, putting it back. We didn't have YouTube like that. So I gave them 2 different artists to try and learn this music video choreography. So it was their challenge. I was like, you guys are on your phone all day. This is what we did back in the days. So this is how you have to learn. If you're already learning on the computer, this is the way that we learned it when we weren't in a classroom. Right in front of the television, trying to learn those steps. So that was a switch for them, and they became more interested in like an artist like Missy Elliott, who's huge to me. They're like, oh, we didn't know that she had this music video, that music video. So it was pleasing to see that they got to get more of a history lesson in that sense of dance, like real stuff that they need to know other than these TikToks and all these challenges and things that are happening right now. You have to know history, you have to know about the past, and that really woke them up and woke up their dance as well.
We're getting a lot of resonance in the chat from folks who learned off of music videos. Yeah, thank you.
Yep. All the boy bands, yep. Everything. Aaliyah, everything. And being that I'm in the industry, it was nice that I was able to tell them the history behind certain music videos, like who choreographed it, who was the director, who was the assistant choreographer that was really in the steps, like the true history behind everything, because all that stuff counts. And I feel like that's starting to fade away due to this TikTok culture.
That makes me, this is a real question that I've had in my life that I really want to know. If you watch a music video and you're like, that choreographer is amazing, I want to know who they are. How do you find out who the choreographer of a music video is? I feel like they're never credited.
It sucks. They aren't credited, but there are ways to find out. You could always look through, like, you could always Google, but like I would know, say you don't know who the choreographer is, but you see who the dancers are. And then from there, I'll ask the dancer who choreographed that or something like that.
Thank you. Slight tangent there, but real question.
If you want to know who choreographed it, just let me know and I'll let you know.
Okay, thank you. Sort of the same question as before to Dr. Bell and Ryan. What do you feel like were some of the major changes that you made in your pedagogy. Yeah, Lauren says the answer is ask Dr. U. But yeah, what do you think was different in this online teaching era for you?
I had to change that. I needed to be more compassionate with myself and the students. I had to change my ability to think anything is about me. I tend to be very much a people pleaser, and I somehow think I did something wrong all the time. You know, like, oh, well, they didn't show up because I was such and such, or I did something. And then it was like, they had the wrong link. And so they were trying to get in, you know, and I'm like, oh, you know, that kind of thing. So it was such a valuable lesson in people are on their journey doing what they need to do in order to crash among my journey. But I should not have an expectation during a global pandemic and possible coup at the time, uprising, all of these things, of what I think they are getting out of the course. That is for them. All I can do is set a healing container, as I said. So what I had to shift was my expectations of what success looked like in a global pandemic. If you showed up, to me, I mean, I probably did say this, but but if you showed up, that was enough, because I honestly don't think that we should be continuing in a capitalist model of producing at this moment. And I mean, I get it from my son, and I'm like trying to get him the coolest assignments. I'm like, you're gonna read the graphic novel of A Parable of the Sower, and you're gonna do a summary of that in a video form. And he's like, why am I doing work period during a pandemic? And I was like, bet. But this is kind of like The Parable of the Sower it's kind of like quarantine-ish and this kind of relates, and we can add history and all that, you know, that I'm trying to make it relevant, you know. But in my classroom now, I had to tweak it so anything is relevant. You breathing in my class, if that's the only time that you meditate and you come in my class and you breathe, that's enough. You won. You won because you breathed with us. Breathe, breath, breath. Yep, yeah. Whatever that conjugation was, you know. So yeah, I really had to tweak what I saw to be engagement during a pandemic.
Yeah, you did tell us showing up, and you've done it, and that, I mean, that was both like very huge and important, and like made us feel held, and also I think a lot of us had a hard time with it. We talked about this, like I think the phrase that kept coming up is like, I don't know how to be free, and you know, holding that space for freedom as an educator in a space and an institution that runs counter to that. Ryan, you want to speak on this one? Did we lose Ryan? Oh no, here too.
No, I'm here. I'm just soaking in all the gems. I think that, you know, Dr. U and Dr. Bell, they pretty much covered it. The one thing that I would add in terms of my adjustment, it's very, very difficult for me to not be in a space with folks, to not be in the physical space. And I needed to really get past that. And I you know, hip hop is really all about, you make something out of nothing. If you have to, like, you just do the damn thing. So, I had to keep that internalized. I had to keep the freestyle mode internalized in terms of, all right, it might not go right. Just like here's a real physical example right now. My audio and camera ain't working at the same time. Still got to keep it moving. Still got to contribute. Still got to add value to the space. And so, all right, it's hip hop. We're gonna keep it popping. So there's that, and then I really needed to figure out how I could still be my animated, full energy self, but behind a screen. So I just came to the realization that I can. That's still Parker. Like, I can still be that, and I'll just put my nose up close to the camera if I have to, like, do that, or I'll back away a little bit and dance if I got to do that. But I'm not in the physical space, but I'm making the best out of what it is that I can right now, you know. And so that's why I would add to it. But everything that the good doctor said is on point for me.
Ryan, that makes me want to ask all of you, knowing that it's been really hard, how have you been able to offer yourselves care and to draw on your sources of support throughout this time?
I want to open up with just saying that you know, we have the consideration of you know, COVID-19 and you know, all the weight that's attached to that, and even that is racial too. We know that, but for me personally, really, and I don't want to sound cliche or redundant, and there's a sadness in the fact that I would even be worried about sounding redundant about this, but I was hit very, very extra hard with the racial turmoil that has always existed, but was highlighted and italicized for some, with Floyd, as like a lot of folks were. But I'm speaking about me, and that was really, I'm still putting pieces back together. And I've been fortunate enough to have Black and brown folks to heal with, to process with, because it had really felt like I was putting pieces of myself back together, and then damn, another name, another one. So shattered again. So, and it hit me in a different kind of way. And if you know me, then you just know that's typically not like who I am, but it really, really devastated me. And so when you're talking about this self-care, and really tuning into how are you preserving yourself in this while still giving to others. I'm glad that you raised that, because for me, it really had been that deep reflection and processing, but it also had been hip hop as a form of therapy for me. It had been hip hop, particularly the element of emceeing, co-creating with other artists, writing about it, processing it, thinking about it, poetry, and also being open and vulnerable with my students, and being able to be that human being, like, hey, this is real for me. And there's the stress of COVID-19, but I also got to talk about like this race joint right here, because this is, I don't even feel like I can protect Black women right now. And I don't feel protected myself. And so that's a part of who I am as a whole human. And this teaching thing is not a profession for me. It's not like just my job. It's just a part of my being. And that turmoil that I'm in is wrapped into that. And that's real. And so we have to talk about that. We have to process that. We have to consistently restore on that, so that we can go through this experience as human beings. And so that's what I would say in terms of, you know, my case.
Beautiful, beautiful. I would say for me, trying to think how I could touch on this, because from March to now, blow by blow of just feeling a sense of anxiety. And I always try my best to remain calm, and I always try my best to make sure that I'm aware that I'm a leader in a certain position. And I kind of stayed away from teaching adults and took more of the route to teach more kids from high school down. And I always wanted to be that encouragement. I always wanted to be that person to make sure that they were getting something out of it. And I'm teaching kids that don't dance at all to teaching kids that are amazing for their age. And from the ones that don't really dance at all, as long as there's a smile on their face and they're like fighting hard to get certain movements and pushing themselves and in a sense, keeping dance as a distraction from everything else. And up until this point where I feel like my energy and everything has risen up, that the announcement that breaking is now going to be in the Olympics. And I'm teaching a lot of kids how to break now. So it's such a milestone towards hip hop that something like this is happening, to something that was created from Black and brown people. Now it's an Olympic sport. Now there's a chance for these kids to be multimillionaires doing what they love to do. A form of hip hop is in the Olympics. It's mind-boggling, and that's what lifted my spirits, and that's what has been pushing my students even more to even think, wow, not in the next 4 years, but in the next 8 to 12 years, I might win a medal. 8-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 6-year-olds now. So I think that's incredible that something like that made a major shift during this racial injustice, this quarantine, this pandemic, that something from hip hop got something gold out of it, you know? But now when it comes to that, I don't know if you guys are into breaking or breakdancing. When it comes to breaking in the United States, all of these other countries are funded by their government with spaces, with different opportunities for them to be as incredible as they are. In France, in Korea, in Japan, all these other places, the government funds them. Here in America, they're not about it. But I hope that this is the chance for America to wake up and know that there should be these facilities for the Black and brown communities to train them for upcoming Olympics, or just keep them active now that it is an art form that has taken it there. Not just gyms, but facilities for dancers and breakers that want to take it seriously to another level. So I hope the word gets to the government. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, you all said such wonderful things. So I'll just keep it brief with my answer about my self-care regimen is deeply embedded in community care. And so my wanting to offer, like I said, this healing container, this safe space, there was only one time I can tell you when I didn't want to go to class. And when I went, it's because I had so much other things going on. Because usually it was like, oh, I'm meet with my folks. It's going to be cool. And it was just like, I don't got time for no Harvard right now. I really just don't got no space for it. But I came, and then I just like turned up, and I was like, wow. So it wasn't depleting, it wasn't draining. And then that's the moment when I recognized that we had built community, because, there was one time where, activist stuff was going on, and we didn't know what was going on during the election with being leaders in the movement. And we're like trying to figure out safety protocols and all kind of stuff. And I still wanted to show up and be in community with the students. And it wasn't from like a necessity, but it was like, it was fulfilling to have that care that we built. And I needed it because isolation wasn't going to help me in that moment. But also recognizing modeling care for my students. When I couldn't make it, I said it. Like, I'm like, hey, when I said I didn't feel well, or I don't want, I'm like, I'm looking a whole mess. I could barely get out of the bed today. So this is what y'all got today. That was for me care. And I modeled the classroom in the level of care that I, have outside the classroom. So I'm taking the beginning of my day to sit with my thoughts and meditate. So when we come into class, we sit with our thoughts and we meditate. And so I give them little tools that I use outside. I love Insight Timer, you know, so I gave them beautiful course on Insight Timer. We used it every class, and now people are using that outside of the classroom. So for me, like I said, community care is definitely something that I do to kind of re-up myself.
Yes. I want to really appreciate the vulnerability and the thoughtfulness in those answers. Thank you. So what I would like to do now is take a couple of questions from the folks out there. I know Lauren has a question. Would you like to unmute, Lauren? I can't. Yes, there we go.
I was gonna say, I don't think I can do that. So thank you. Yeah, so my question, I have 12 new questions after what y'all just said. My question is about something that I realized, especially in grading end of the semester papers, is that in teaching the college courses that I taught, I felt like there were so many students I didn't know. Like, I know them, but not in the ways that I normally get to know my students. Because you have those, like, you just walked into the room interactions, right? You have the, like, we're exiting the room. There's just so many ways to know your students that are outside of them submitting assignments or like engaging in dialogue with the entire class. And I think, especially when you walk into a physical classroom, you can have a private conversation with Mr. Parker. It's not like the entire class is watching it. Whereas in the Zoom room, like, the entire class is watching it unless you're in small groups in the breakout rooms. And so I just realized that, like, I lost so many opportunities to get to know my students. And I say lost and maybe missed because I'm sure they exist, but I just didn't put them into place. I'm wondering what strategies, you know, Dr. Bell already shared one in the Q&A, you all had for getting to know your students. So outside of them showing up and submitting assignments, like, how did you know them as people in a Zoom room or a Google room, whatever you used, WebEx room? Thank you.
I know that for me, is everybody hearing me okay? Thank you for the thumbs up. I know that for me, great question, by the way. Thank you for this. I know that because now I'm in the position, I'm the race and equity coordinator for my district. And so I'm working, you know, my students are teachers. And on opening day with my opening PD speech that I gave, I posted my phone number to over 1,000 educators in the space. But I know that when I have my small, you know, scheduled meetings, my group meetings, and I like to just think of those as classes, I know that I'm being really intentional about our check-ins and about our checkouts. And they're very intentionally designed to really elicit some real human conversation so that I'm able to really get to know the teachers that I'm privileged to work with as people. That does not take care of the fact that, like you mentioned, everybody's on that call. And so as much as I possibly can, I'm really giving one-on-one phone calls with folks. I'm texting folks. We can't be in the physical space together, so I can't, you know, roll up to, you know, meet them somewhere or engage in ways that I did before. But I am trying to be intentional about that one-on-one time, that if I'm not engaging in it, at least I'm offering that. But I've found value. And I think that the best relationships that I've developed are those that have really taken advantage of that. And we've been able to vibe in that kind of a way.
Yeah, I mean, I answered quickly in the chat, but I said I'd love to speak more about it. It's a very intentional effort. Like I said, we begin with vulnerability. And so folks know that I offer a space where they can speak up, and I kind of think about disability justice in the ways that some people have different learning disabilities. And so offering that, you know, I have bipolar disorder off top, I talk about that. And so I had a piece of paper and I was writing down things as other folks talk. I wrote down the question because, you know, sometimes we privilege folks who speak a lot in classrooms, or they just like to hear their own voices. But you know, when I was a TA in my graduate program, I would look at the brilliant papers of people who didn't say a word. And so that was one of the reasons why for Harvard, I didn't have to make it mandatory, but I usually have like mandatory awesome hours. I don't like to call them office hours because people have like this, I don't want to go to office hours. I'm like, well, let's do awesome hours. And so we have time to have deeper conversations. But I think if you make the classroom, for the people who aren't talking, the people that don't unmute, if you have space for them to journal their thoughts and then talk in a smaller group, using breakout rooms is great. When they come back, they're more likely to share out, or you can just call on people with just bullet points and they're likely to at least say something. And then that gives them more of if they're shy, they will talk to you a little bit more because you've made it accommodating for all different types of, personalities. And I think finally, aside from the awesome hours and the breakout rooms and the journaling, I made it intentional, like there's a WhatsApp group or there's a Slack or, social media, different forms and the ways that they like to connect. That's another thing that I try to do to get to know them better. Yeah. And they have my number. So yeah.
Hey Lauren, what's going on? I guess for me, it's a little different. But I will say this, there was a Zoom class that I had to teach ongoing, and it was a bunch of kids that it was my first time teaching them. And I always try my best to start off with some type of movement. So I made them introduce themselves with a movement. So I would go, my name is Dr. Ooh. And then they will all have to do Dr. Ooh. And then whoever was next had to do their name with a certain move. And we would all have to do that. And we would all have to do that move. And it was a cool, fun way for me to memorize people's names and recognize them with a movement at that too. It was always that movement. Oh yeah, you're Ryan. Okay, it was yeah, exactly. But that's how it worked with me when it came to attendance and making it a fun, creative way of knowing names and feeling like a part of something.
Awesome. And April, I love this question in the chat. Do you want to share it in your voice?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I feel like 2020 has been sort of the year that art got us through. Everybody's been talking about that, like how central art has been to sort of like our mental well-being, emotional, all that stuff. So was there a particular art piece, book, performance, song that helped you get through this year?
I can put it in the chat. So I was saying Insight Timer. And so it's I've just put it in the chat, and there's a group called Beautiful Chorus, and they have affirmations to like beautiful like chorus songs. So the one about inner peace, and it's just like, please let me feel inner peace over and over and over again, and you can just hear it. It reminds you to breathe it in, let it out, and let it go. Like, so there were affirmations to songs. Previously, before I found the Insight Timer, I was doing Janae Aiko's trigger protection, I believe it is. Like she has some sound bowls, and she was just saying, I am protected and things like that. So that helped me kind of get through. And then New Edition, April. So like, no lie, if we are actually probably, I'm gonna, look, if it is, like, you look, Remy knows it because of me.
This is great.
Because of me. So we are sitting there, we do it all the time. So I'll model it later, but New Edition gets me and my son through. I do something called Radical Embodied check-ins. And so we check in with our favorite dance moves. And I'm always doing, if it isn't love, why do I feel this way? Why does she stay on my mind? That's always my favorite check-in. And I even switched it to add that to affirmation. So I would say, I am love. I am love. I am love. I am love. And then that kind of gets in my head. So I just, yeah, my son is 10 and he knows all the lyrics and every run to New Edition. So yeah, April, we're fam.
I know that my joint that was getting me through was it was that try Jesus, but don't try me, 'cause I throw hands. And I know that was kind of like an anthem for me, but I'm an artist. I'm a hip hop artist, and so it was the act of actually writing, creating. I listened to a lot of just instrumentals, um, a whole blend of them, and got into a just a routine with some other artists that would send a beat per month, and then we could just freely write whatever was in our heart, on our mind. It didn't have to fit a form. It didn't have to be a certain amount of bars. It didn't have to fit a theme. It was just what is there and what's present, and then we would record. So we have a lot of songs stacked up, but that's been very therapeutic and healing. Is just listening to those beats and creating songs off of them. I tried Jesus though.
Dope. Now, for me, when it came to music, definitely that Black Panther album with all that Kendrick on it, that was screaming to me loud. But I felt like I had to really get inspired. I had to step away from the music and step away from dance. And I started to watch a lot of old films. And I got into Sidney Poitier deeply, and seeing a lot of his films and the representation that he had through films really sparked something that made me see activism in a different way, other than like within art and music, like within the acting that he did and the movies that he did and the way he portrayed himself really like woke me up during this quarantine of watching Look Who's Coming to Dinner, To Sir, With Love. What else did I see? I forgot the name of it, but he plays a doctor. He plays a Black doctor, and all the white patients are like extremely racist and try to say that he killed someone. And it was just a bunch of incredible stuff that made my mind boggle that like these were films that were made back then, and like we're being awoken in a different way right now. And that really hit me.
Thanks, y'all. We got all those. No Way Out, is that the movie? Got those recommendations going in the chat. What I would love to do now is take a little bit of time. This session was advertised as teachers come get some tips, some tools to add to your tool belt for online teaching, because we're going to be doing that for at least a little bit longer. So Dr. Bell, I know we forgot to do yours at the beginning, but would you like to do it now? And then maybe Dr. U, and then we'll close out with Ryan's.
Yeah, we were, I showed April it anyway. April, we already did your question. Was there a particular art piece, book, performance, song that helped? Yeah, and that was what I was going to show y'all, what I do, the radical embodied check-in. So I usually do it one by one, but if we have a larger class, it's still fun to have everyone unmute their mics. And then it's like a cipher of all different voices. Everyone feels heard. If some folks feel like they're a little bit vulnerable when they know it's so many people, they can kind of just say what they want to say. So how it goes is that we say our name, our pronouns, how we're really feeling in that moment. So a lot of people, you say how you're doing, and they're just like, nothing, because they think it's like a greeting now. Hi, how you doing? And so we give a moment to actually do that. But what's most important about this, we do our favorite social dance. And so that's the embodied part of it. So just like Dr. you does, we typically do whatever. It doesn't have to be a particular type of dance, just your favorite dance. Even if you don't know how to dance and this is your dance, that's the dance. So the second part we started to add to is because, you know, we come from no music. So we create our music with our affirmation now. So I have you sit there and meditate and come up with an affirmation that you put to your dance move and make that like a song that you're dancing to. And so I usually do New Edition, If It Isn't Love, no lie. And so I usually do the whole thing and I come up with an affirmation and it was I am love. And so I would do I am love, I am love, I am love, I am love. And that was my favorite dance move. So that's something that I want to gift y'all for a radical embodied check-in. You give time for people to unmute their mics. If it's this amount of people in the class, I would let everyone go one by one and they can really deeply check in. When it's so many people, I open up the classroom 10 minutes prior and they have 10 to 15 minutes prior. They know that they can come on and they can do a deeper check-in. We check in a little bit and then we do a radical embodied check-in with everyone. So everybody want to do a radical embodied check-in with me? All right, so you unmute your mic.
I just gave everybody the ability to unmute if you'd like to join in on this.
Yes, so unmute your mic. You say your name, your pronoun, how you're feeling right now, like for real, for real, for real. And then you go into your affirmation with your dance move. Aisha, you know what's up. You got on video because you know you got to check in with me. My first day, let me tell you, Aisha, you remember what I did my first day at Harvard?
She crip walked.
I crip walked on the Slauson Hills.
She started off the semester speed walking.
I really did. I had a whole moment. So yeah, we'll talk about that later. But I always do 5, 6, 7, 8 because that's, as a choreographer, that's when we're moving together in motion, and that's a catalyst for the movement. So I'm gonna say 5, 6, 7, 8, and y'all just go. So 5, 6, 7, 8. I am Dr.
My name is
right now, just energized by all that we're doing right now. My dance move. I am. Look at Remy still in mind. I am love.
I got this.
Hey,
I got this.
Did I hear I got this? Hey.
You know I got
this. I love this. I see you over there, Ryan. That was so much fun.
You know I got
did I see Remy still my move?
I won't stop this. I got it.
Look at Ryan. Yes, Ryan, you are the MVP. Yeah, so that's the radical embodied check-ins.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bell. Oh, yeah, that feels good. Dr. U, you have something you want to hit us with?
Well, I always start off my classes with a warm-up, but for certain students, they don't have the luxury of having open space. So when I am in the physical sense of having a regular dance class, one important thing that I always tell them is that you have to feel the music. There's no way that you're standing still waiting for the 5, 6, 7, 8 and then starting 1, you know? At least a head nod, at least a toe tap. Let's show that we're actually feeling vibration other than my voice. You're feeling the music. You have to feel that before feeling a step. So within my warm-up of people who don't have the luxury of space, I make sure that they master isolations of like understanding a head nod, the difference between this and this, inside the sides, loose in that sense. So if any of y'all want to ever feel loose, especially with the neck and everything, get your head bop. It's crazy because usually every Tuesday, I would host a party called Toka Tuesday with DJ Tony Touch. And there's this dude named Disco Ron, and he had the best head bop that just always moved. And he didn't have to dance, but you could tell he was just feeling the music so much. He didn't do any moves. All he did was bop his head. But the energy that you felt from a regular bounce, that's what I gotta leave y'all with. Don't forget the awareness of music.
Yep.
Yes. Yes.
That bop though, yes.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Dr. Ew. Ryan, you want to close this out?
Yeah, it will be an honor, pleasure, and privilege to close everybody out. And this is a tool that you can use if you decide to use it. But it's a necessary component, I think, in terms of what we do in this work, in terms of shifting paradigms. I think I introduced my closeout by saying that it is not the job of Black and brown folks to repair the damage that the oppressor has caused. It is not our job to do that. The reason why we do that is because our lives literally depend on it. The reason why we do that is because we are looking to thrive as opposed to surviving. The reason why we do that is because our ancestors have paved the path for us to be able to march upon with high knees. And they have sacrificed so much in order to pave that path. And now it is our job to continue that path for those that we will one day be ancestors to. But it is not our job to fix the damage of the oppressor, but we engage in it anyways. And so one of the things I've been really thinking more deeply about is the preservation of my people, the sustainability of my people, their souls, their
Ryan, we lost you.
I rebuke the Zoom demon trying to come against the word that Pastor Ryan is giving us.
I'm saying, right? Don't have me bring out my tongue. I'm like, what am I praying against it?
If we think about those who are engaged in this work, I guarantee you that you are most likely going to see Black and brown folks. And so what I want to do to close us out is I want us to think about our self-worth. I want us to think about our value. And I want us to think about joy. And I want us to center joy in this moment. Our ancestors who went through the most dire conditions never lost sight of their joy. They still had church services. They still had weddings, and they still had birthdays and celebrations, and they never lost sight of their joy. And that is, if somebody takes your joy away, they are taking your humanity away. And we have refused to let that happen. And so I want to make sure that we keep in the tradition of our ancestors, and we remember to hold tight to our joy and to be intentional about the moments that we will create for ourselves that center joy. And so I know this might sound silly to some of you, but I'm going to give you an example. One of my joy, I have two things that I've been most recently doing to be intentional about my joy each day. And they seem so small, but they give me fuel in this work that I do because my life depends on it. One of the joy things that I do is every night I hold my daughter outside on my porch and we look at the sky at least once every night. And she loves it when it's an orange golden moon, and she says it out loud to show me her love for it. Sometimes we can't see the moon, but we still look at that sky and we soak it in, and it just does something for my soul. The other thing that I've been doing is I've just been eating more slowly. I've been eating slow because I'm really trying to intentionally taste the food that I'm lucky enough to put in my mouth in the first place. And I've been just moving so fast because Race and equity work, activism is my life 100% day in and day out. It never stops. So I need to remind myself to sometimes stop and to really, really soak it in. So one of my joy moments is looking at the sky. It seems like a small thing, but it's doable, and I can do that, and it brings me joy. Another small thing that I do is I slow down and I taste what I'm putting in my mouth. And so what I'm going to ask everybody here to do is to really think about your own value. I want you to think about your self-worth in this moment and the fact that you're engaged in this work that you're not responsible for in the first place, like I said when I initiated this. And so I want you to be preserved. I want you to self-preserve. I want you to be sustained. And I want you to be selfish so that you can continue to be selfless in the work that you do. What is your moment? And you can put it in the chat. What is your joy moment that you will guarantee yourself because you deserve it? You could write it in the chat. For those that are on Facebook Live, you could think about it in your head. If for those who don't have an answer, don't have an answer. This is not no test or a quiz or anything. Like, this is personal to you, but please, I will ask you to be thinking about how can you center joy in your life in the midst of the work that you do for the betterment of yourself and others. And I'll close with that.
Ashe, ashe, ashe.
So we have a question for you. Can I ask you a question? Reverend Dr. Ryan Parker.
Yes, bless me.
Yeah, so Sejani was trying to we were both figuring out joy. Do you have a definition for the difference between joy and happiness? No, just
a definition between joy and happiness. I think that happiness can happen in random situations where something pops off and it makes you feel happy and you smile, you laugh, something funny on TV. Maybe you just wake up and you're happy. For me, joy involves something that was kind of like modeled it. For me, joy involves an intentionality, having a consciousness about how you are being. And when I talk about joy, I'm also talking about it as a form, especially for my Black and brown kings and queens. I'm thinking about it in terms of it being an act of resistance. Mm-hmm. It's a screaming out that I am prideful. I am beyond content with who it is that I am. And I have high knowledge of my capabilities, and I am joyous, and I am choosing to be joyous, even in the face of threats, even in the face of racism, in the face of those who try to speak against my soul, to those who try to murder my spirit. I remain joyous. I am deciding to do that, and I will show that through my dance. I will show it through my lyricism. I will show it through my slap boxing with my friends. I will show it through my laughter, my loudness. So to me, that's the difference between the two. That's how I see it. And joy is very much, that intentionality is very much connected to that joy component.
Johnny, say thank you. Thank you.
No. Thank you. Thank you.
For what?
For being exactly who you are and for asking the question, because that's a step to knowledge right there. So I feel like I'm in good hands if you are putting that work in. Thank you.
All right, perfect. You can go now. Bye, Johnny.
Sejani is a whole professor, a whole I'm writing Sejani's name in for everything. I love
Thank y'all.
That seems like the right note to end on, right? Conversation with the youth, conversation about joy, conversation about holding on to what we need. Okay, so thank you, Ryan Parker. Thank you, Dr. Shamell Bell. Thank you, Dr. Ooh. Just so much soul nourishment to bring home with us today. Thank you for being in community with us. If you want to drop any sort of social media handles in the chat, I encourage folks to follow these incredible artists, creators, educators. If you have any projects that you want to promote, for our Facebook folks, Dr. Shamell Bell is on @Shamell Bell and @Street Dance Activism. Yeah. Tomorrow we have Dr. Shomba Dibanga, is that right?
Binga. Mm-hmm.
From Origination. She's going to be sharing some wisdom with us as well as we continue this week of making it through hip hop in 2020. Ryan Parker is on Instagram @PeaceLoveParker. Is there a HipHopEX Instagram? Yes, there is. Thank you so much for asking.
It's there. Boom, cat.
Drop it in Zoom.
Build it up. Bring it back.
Yes.
Remy knows this. I feel too old to say DM. I do. It makes me feel inappropriate.
Down in the DMs.
I don't want it to. I don't want to be there when
that used to be my favorite song.
I feel, but anyway, I just want to say that, you know, the power of social media as it has allowed us to find each other and connect through direct messaging or messaging directly. So we just, again, thank each and every one of you all for answering our invitations across various platforms. I think shout out to folks who are on. Yes, follow everybody. Dr. Rue, I met you at the Hip Hop Youth Research and Activism Conference 2 years ago, back when the world was open. Justice put me in touch with Ryan. I was low-key fangirl stalking Dr. Shamell Bell, and then the universe was like, put us in the same sphere. And I was like, well, we was already sisters, so cool. So I just love all the connections. And I just want to say that you all are blessing people with your honesty, with your truth today. And when we, you know, post things up, we share with y'all, you know, for folks to continue to access this. But I never want to skip a moment to say thank you. Thank you, Remy, for beautifully facilitating and moderating the conversation, as well as providing the dope tunage. And yeah, tomorrow, like once somebody, I think it was April, had asked the question, we're also putting that up on our Instagram and Facebook, but like what's some music that got y'all through, some hip hop lyrics or lyrics in general that got y'all through, so we can continue to build that, because that is a resource. To your point, Ryan, what feeds us and how the expressions speak to us can look like it's just aesthetic, but that's nourishment for the soul, and how we lean into our Afro roots of leaning into music for healing. So we want to get more input from folks as we listen with Shomba Dibinga of Origination, as she shares how she transitioned her whole studio and production to online, and what music moves and drives her. But y'all the dopest on the ropest. I wish I was an MC. I feel like in another life, but in this one they said, you know, why don't you just stick to the two-step? But thanks everybody. Oh, thank you, April. We will grab that. Yes, thank you, Lauren. Shout out to the Hip Hop Youth Research and Activism students who curated a beautiful playlist at the beginning of this year. Hit it up. Shout out to the young peoples. Yeah. So if we want to gesture it out while Remy.
Thank you, Mom, to Remy and you. You know how we.
Of course. It's all love.
I just want to thank you so much.
Infinite gratitude. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Ready for action, nip it in the bud. We never relaxing. Outcast everlasting. Not passion, not at all. But see, my nigga went to do a little acting. Now that's for anyone asking. Give me one and pass them. Rip, rip, drop, there it goes an orgasm. Now you coming out the side of your face. We tapping right into your memory banks. Thanks. So click at the ticket. Let's see your seatbelt.